4 days ago, I added a $2 fuel additive to my diesel engine that my mechanic said could damage it. By day 4, he called me back, asking what I used. And that's not what I expected. I didn't expect this to work. I tested it anyway. Here's what happened, and I'll tell you exactly what the product was. Right after day 4, I came across this in a diesel form late one night, a thread buried under years of replies, started by someone who had been running the same truck for over 300,000 miles. He was not selling anything. No link in his bio, no product pitch at the end. Just a guy talking quietly about a fuel additive he had been using for years. $2 per treatment. Cleaner and smoother than anything else he had tried. I was skeptical, but something about it stuck with me. Zero reason to exaggerate, nothing to gain, so I tested it the next morning. Before I started, I wrote down my baseline. Fuel economy, idle sound, throttle feel, so I would know if anything actually changed. One more thing up front. This is not a product you have ever seen advertised, not a name you would recognize from any ad. It just sits quietly on the shelf. With the baseline locked in, I added the treatment to the tank and started paying attention. Day 1. Nothing. Idle felt maybe slightly smoother at one point. Could have been my head. At that point, I was ready to call it a waste of $2. Went to bed thinking this was going to be a completely flat result. I almost did not write day 2 because I was that convinced nothing was going to happen. Day 2. Throttle felt sharper, subtle but enough that I noticed it twice on the same road I drive every single day. The engine responded in a way I could not immediately explain. Still skeptical, still going. Day 3 is where skepticism started becoming genuinely difficult to hold on to. 2 things happened back to back. The first was fuel economy. Over the previous 2 days, the average had shifted in a direction I would not have predicted. Not dramatic, but consistent, the kind of movement that does not happen randomly. The second thing was the sound. I was sitting at a stoplight when I noticed the idle was quieter than I was used to. That specific diesel clatter I had accepted as just how my engine sounds, reduced. I pulled into a parking lot and sat there for 5 full minutes, engine running, windows down, just listening. I was not imagining it. Something had genuinely shifted. And that evening I called my mechanic. He told me to stop before having the truck tested. Not with alarm. He was calm about it, the way he is calm about everything. He explained that he had seen products temporarily mask performance issues while quietly creating longer-term problems underneath. And he wanted diagnostic data before the additive had been in the system any longer. 3 days in. Bring it in on day 4. I went to bed that night with a feeling I could not fully name, because by that point I had a sense the numbers were not going to show what either of us was expecting. Day 4 was the day everything became clear. I brought the truck in first thing in the morning. He ran the full diagnostics. Injector performance, fuel system pressure, combustion efficiency, all of it. Methodical and quiet the way he always works. And then he stopped. He looked at the screen for a long moment, longer than he usually does. He scrolled through something, went back, looked again, and then he turned around and looked at me and said, "What did you do?" Not angry, not worried. Genuinely curious in a way I had never quite heard from him before, because what was on that screen was not what either of us had walked in expecting to see. The readings were better than my last full-service visit. The injector performance data had shifted in a direction he told me he would normally associate with a professional fuel system cleaning, the kind that costs a couple of $100s at a shop and takes most of a day. He pulled up my previous service records and compared them side by side on the screen. The difference was right there in the numbers, plain and documented. He asked me again what I had added. I told him, a $2 fuel additive from the auto parts store. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said he wanted the name so he could look into it himself. At that moment, not the numbers, not the diagnostic printout, but a mechanic with over 20 years on diesel engines asking me to send him the name of a $2 product. That was the clearest answer this test could have given me. If you want the 30-day follow-up data, subscribe right now because that video is coming and the numbers are going to be worth seeing. Now, what I actually used. The additive was Hotshot's Secret Diesel Extreme. No big claims, no flashy label. Just something most diesel owners have walked past on the shelf 100 times without picking it up because it does not look like anything special. And it does not cost enough to feel like it could do anything real. It does not come in dramatic packaging. I'm not telling you it will produce identical results on every engine. I have one truck, one baseline, one mechanic's reaction. What I am telling you is that on my truck, with a documented baseline before and a professional diagnostic after, the results were real. Real enough that a mechanic with over 20 years on diesels asked me to send him the name. What actually changed after all of this was not the diagnostic numbers. It was not the mechanic's reaction. It was something quieter than both of those things, and it hit me on the drive home from the shop, sitting in traffic, engine running smooth in a way I had almost forgotten it could. What actually changed was the realization that I had been accepting a version of my engine's performance as permanent for years, without ever once stopping to question whether it had to be that way. Not because I was lazy, not because I did not care about my truck, but because the decline was so gradual, so slow, so spread out across thousands of miles. And hundreds of mornings that I never noticed the moment it happened. You never do. That is the thing nobody tells you about high mileage engines. It is not one bad day. It is 100 small acceptances, each one so minor you barely register it, until one day the thing you are driving is a significantly worse version of what you started with, and you have completely stopped expecting anything different. The idle roughness, the throttle that used to feel immediate and now feels slightly soft, the cold start hesitation that takes 2 or 3 seconds longer than it used to. The clatter that was not there at 50,000 miles but showed up somewhere around 150 and never left. I had filed every single one of those things under high mileage diesel and closed the drawer on them. Stopped thinking about them the way you stop thinking about a crack in the wall of a house you have lived in long enough. It is just there. It has always been there. You walk past it every day without seeing it anymore. And then something shifts. 4 days, $2, one parking lot with the windows down and the engine running. And suddenly you are hearing your truck the way you heard it years ago, and the drawer opens back up, and you realize how much you had put in there without noticing. Think about what you might be accepting right now on your truck, your van, your diesel car that you have been driving for 180,000 miles and telling yourself runs fine. The roughness you have filed away. The hesitation on cold mornings that you have just built into your commute, leaving 2 minutes earlier than you used to, because that is how long it takes now. Maybe some of that is just age. Maybe some of it is wear that cannot be addressed, but maybe some of it is buildup, deposits, gradual contamination of components that have never been properly cleaned because you never thought to question whether they needed to be. I did not question it. I accepted it as permanent. And it turned out that not questioning it cost me years of performance I did not have to give up. Years. On a $2 fix that had been sitting on a shelf at the auto parts store the entire time. I have told you everything I know about this. Every day, every number, every moment of doubt and the mechanic's reaction and what the screen actually showed. I have held nothing back. Now you tell me what you think. Drop one word in the comments right now. Works. If you have tried something like this on your own vehicle and noticed a real difference, scam. If you think the entire fuel additive category is nonsense, and I have this completely wrong, I want both conversations in equal measure. I learn more from the people who push back than from the people who agree. And if you know someone running a diesel truck that has not been right for a while, send them this video right now. It takes 5 seconds. It might save them more than money. 4 days, $2. And something I thought was just age, I just didn't know what I didn't know. And it cost me years.